Welcome back to the Slanted Attic Experience. I'm your host, Tyler, and this is episode 32, the third installment of the Sports Room. Joining me today are our resident analysts, Graham and Liam. Graham, a North Carolina native, is a diehard Duke fan and Virginia Tech alum. He's passionate about Hokie football, but finds his true obsession in the EPL, where he supports Brighton Hove Albion. Liam, a Philadelphia sports diehard and WVU grad, has lived through it all. From Phillies and Eagles championships to the rise of the PLL, his latest sports obsession. In this episode, we're breaking down the evolution of NFL quarterback play, why teams are relying on shotgun formations in short yardage situations, the rise of mobile quarterbacks, and whether teams should invest more outside the quarterback position to win championships. Then we dive into Alabama's shocking loss, chaotic football endings, and the impact of player turnover on powerhouse college programs. We'll also take a deep look at youth sports, how the pressure to specialize early, the rise of elite academies like IMG, and the shifting landscape of recruiting are changing the way young athletes develop. And of course, we'll talk playoff baseball in October and make our NBA Finals predictions. Strap in for expert analysis, bold takes, and plenty of debate. The Slanted Attic Experience is available on all major podcast platforms with video content on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Slanted Attic. New episodes drop bi-weekly on Mondays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's get right into it. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slanted Attic Experience, also known as the Sports Room. Today we have Graham and Liam back again to chat sports, among other things. We'd like to go into the hurricane a little bit quickly here, just so we kind of get a general understanding of the sports events and also the world events that have been disrupted by this act of nature, and put a lot of people out of their homes without cars, food, water. So just want to bring action or alertness to the fact that all these people are going without all these things, and it's important that we as people are compassionate towards that and try to help those people in any way that we can. Don't want to get into the government taking so long to respond to that because this is a sports podcast, but Graham seems like the most knowledgeable person on this subject, so we're going to let him take it away with kind of the general understanding of what happened. He's from one of the areas that got rather affected, or he grew up nearby, so take it away there, Grambo.
Yeah, so I mean, as somebody who's a North Carolina native, like Hurricane Helene definitely hits home. It's unfortunately, none of my family was affected, and it was further west than us. But a lot of the areas in Western North Carolina were, absolutely destroyed. And yeah, we don't have to get too much into the poor response from FEMA and from the government, and not having funds and refusing, not allowing helicopters to go in to rescue people. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But
Absolutely. That's one of those conspiracy podcasts with like Hunter. And then, we go in there and just like are just talking about all kinds of whack shit. Even though, sometimes you look at it might not seem so whack to everybody out there.
it's not whack if people on the ground are talking about it,
True.
because they're the ones that are actually going through it and experiencing it. And a lot of those people have lost their homes, and unfortunately will never get it back. Like a lot of those people, they were multi-generational family homes that were passed down from grandfather to son to grandson. And so only 2% of people that lost their homes in North Carolina had flood insurance. And so not only did they lose their homes, but they're not going to be able to rebuild their homes, because they're not going to be insured for that. And so, yeah, it's really devastating. And, your heart goes out to those people, and you really feel for those people, because that's not something that was ever expected. You would expect it in Eastern North Carolina because you get hurricanes all the time on, the eastern coast, but not really in the western part of the state. That's not a usual occurrence. So it was just very unfortunate and caused a lot of, weather delays in terms of, sporting events and things of that nature. And I know that a lot of the news has talked about Hurricane Milton as well, another hurricane that's coming. Both are kind of, later in the season. You usually see hurricanes around, end of August, early September, but these seem to be kind of later in the season. And, it's starting to affect a lot of things. It's affecting a lot of families as well as sporting events. So try to bring it back to the sports for the sports room here, and
Yeah.
we can go into talking about some of the football that's going on, playoff baseball. There's a lot of sports going on too, and a lot of tragedy, but also a lot of things to kind of get people's mind off of it as well.
Yep. 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 And we don't want to get too light too quick. Obviously, it's important to understand the effects and the gravity of the situation that's going on here. So, you know, yeah. But back to sports. There was a game that was in a weather delay that happened this past Sunday, and it was between the historic Dallas Cowboys and your hometown Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was a fucking brutal game to watch, man. Oh my god, it was so terrible. Takeaways from the game, high level. Our defense played well. Dak converted in a tight circumstance towards the end of the game. I think he's a good quarterback. We were tired. Our secondary is beat up, banged up. Herbig got hurt. Highsmith got hurt last week. We're weak. We're thin at the linebacker position, and our secondary is not very good. I mean, we brought Terrell Edmonds back after he bounced around to like 3 teams and nobody would sign him. So, not to say I don't like the guy. I have met him on one occasion. He wasn't, the greatest character to me. I'm sure that he'll see this on the internet, but anyways, high level takeaway: 3 turnovers, 2 in the red zone, I believe. Some great plays by Pittsburgh. Justin Fields in the offense couldn't get anything going against a second-tier defense. I mean, what, 3 of their 3 best players were hurt, 2 best players were hurt, and we couldn't do anything. So that's kind of tough. Pickens looked awful. Bad attitude, poor performance, and Fields did okay. I think I'm not a Fields believer. I'm not a Fields hater. I'm still like towing that middle line. I don't know how to feel about him. It's been 5 games. Got to let it play out, I guess. He made some horrendous throws, man. Some of those were god awful. But then again, he converted some third downs. He made some plays. Pickens didn't do him any favors, so it's hard to judge him, without the full picture. So high level, sucks that we lost. If the offense could have done anything right, we probably would have won that game. Kudos to Dak to taking it down, 4th and goal, very late. Those guys probably want to get home, get to their hotel, go to bed. And he wrapped it up, man. So kind of a gut wrencher, heartbreaker, to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch. Honestly, truly was terrible. But I think it kind of put us in our position. I don't think we had any right to be a 5-0 team, although that could have happened. So, yeah, I think we still have a shot at making the playoffs. It's a little early to say if the team can come together. We'll see how hard Tomlin can coach. I don't know, man. Did either of you guys watch it? It was late.
I didn't watch last night. I don't watch Dallas play. But I feel like those games just come down to like you got to make a play at the end, and then if like you stop them, you win, and if you don't, they win. So like it's just like kind of a toss up to an extent, and they probably just like made the play at the end to score and win. So
it kills me.
Yeah.
That's fucking Pittsburgh Steelers football, dude. Every single week.
Yeah, I also feel like the weather just kills the vibe of the game.
Also, aren't
like sitting
aren't the
around for so
Steelers
long.
3-2? So
Yeah,
they wouldn't have been almost 5-0 because they lost to the Colts the week before too, right?
My point being, we should have beat the Colts. In all honesty,
Oh yeah.
we should have won that game.
You should have beat the Colts, yeah.
So that was my.
I don't know, man. Go Flacco.
I know. Joe
Don't
Flacco picked
hate.
us apart. Dude, that's the thing. Like I've been talking to some people about the old school quarterbacks, and
He just put up 45 or whatever.
yeah, I heard some interesting things on the McAfee show, I think like 2 or 3 days ago, and they had Big Ben on. We love Big Ben. We love Big Ben. Hall of Famer. You know, we know two-time Super
Creep.
Bowl winner.
He's a creep.
But
Alleged rapist.
Yeah.
man, you guys don't got to be shitting on the Steelers that hard. I get it.
Wait, we're not shitting on the Steelers.
We're shitting on Big Ben.
Yeah,
Hey, I don't know. Have I ever told
I'm
you
not
guys?
even shitting on Big Ben. I'm just saying the facts.
Just saying. Have I ever told you guys the story of I met Big Ben twice in person? Have I ever said that? May have told you guys, but maybe not on the podcast. Do we know
Yeah,
that?
I feel like you might have told me once. But
I feel like you've told me that before, but
All right, we'll get into it. So my dad knew a guy that was part of the security team for the Pittsburgh Steelers in probably 2000. I don't know. I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. I have a photo with Heinz Ward that I'm sure I've shown you guys. One of my favorite pictures that I have. It's probably somewhere around here in the house. But anyway, we went first year, got to go to training camp. It was an electric experience. We got like some yellow level tag, which meant we could go behind some rope that somebody with a white tag couldn't, or something like that, right? We got second tier access. And obviously, you know, there's players, family, friends, people that can go in the cafeterias with them, specific places. We did not have that. So we watched the entire practice or whatever, and guys are coming off the field. I got, Santonio Holmes autograph, or no, I don't know if I got Santonio Holmes that year or the following year. Anyway, got a bunch of autographs, got a picture with Heinz Ward, super cool. And then we're like, everything's kind of wrapping up, and we see Big Ben kind of walk around this corner. So I'm like, oh my God, Big Ben, I got to go, get his autograph, whatever. So I run up to him. He's like this. Well, I guess people listening to just audio. I guess we don't have video anymore for the time being. Technical glitch. We're working on that really hard. We've got an entire software team devoted to solving that problem. Anyway, he's standing there and he's like pointing the security guard. He's like, yo, these kids aren't allowed to be back here. Like, get them away from me. Like, they can't be here because we have the yellow tags instead of the black and gold, whatever. I don't remember what the specific security designation was. And at 8 years old, this guy is like a professional quarterback on your favorite team. He's like your idol, right? And this he's like, get these fucking kids out of here. Like, I don't want to be dealing with this, yada, yada. And this was before the alleged allegations that Graham was talking about earlier. And we go back. Yeah, right. Alleged. I'm sure it was alleged. So we go back like 2 years later after the whole scenario happens. And I remember after that, he was the nicest person ever. Oh my God, I'll sign all your shit, whatever, we can take a picture, this and that. And then I was like, something's going on there,
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my story of meeting Big Ben. And I don't think I understood the gravity of the situation until I was older and understood, what happened or whatever. But definitely looking back on it, I'm like, that's definitely what was going on there. But
yeah. What's crazy is, so that's like a complete 180 from Cam Newton. Like, I never actually like met Cam Newton, but he would like, I went to a game, I think it was his rookie year, second year in the league. He was like, there were a bunch of people like waiting outside for him to sign autographs as he was like walking to the stadium, and he took the time to like deliberately walk over to them, like greet all the fans there, say hi, sign the autographs and everything. He was very much of like a fan's player, and everybody in Carolina to this day loves Cam Newton because of that. Like, he would, whenever he scored a touchdown, he would take the ball and hand it to some kid that was in the stand. Just little things like that where, you kind of don't really see that from other NFL quarterbacks, let alone NFL players. He was just a very personable guy. And I feel like he got such a bad rap from people in the media because of the way he dressed. Kind of, he was a little bit had a bad attitude sometimes, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't, And it's kind of hard to hide that when you've got cameras pointed at you all the time. You're not really able to, live a private life and you're always in the spotlight. But I feel like he was always appreciative of the fans. And because of that, the fans loved him. And kind of going back to like the quarterback thing too, I've heard multiple quarterbacks, Kurt Warner especially, talk about like how bad the quarterback play is right now in the
Yeah.
NFL. And
Yeah,
that's
I didn't
why
get
you're
to that.
seeing like older quarterbacks like Joe Flacco come in and shred up the league. It's
Tear
not
it
like
up.
Joe Flacco's like, a super great quarterback, but 5 years ago, it was like half the quarterbacks in the league were throwing for 300 yards and a couple
Yeah.
touchdowns every game.
Yep.
And it's like, there's maybe two or three quarterbacks that do that in a week,
In
maybe
a
even less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't get to my point about Roethlisberger. Let me do that really quick because I
okay.
kind
Yeah,
of got into
sorry,
that
go ahead.
side tangent about the story of meeting that giant asshole. Anyway, love him though. I mean, he won us some Super Bowls and he was a stellar player while he was in Pittsburgh. Can't say much about his outside life, but I respect him as a football player. Anyway, he was on the Pat McAfee show a few days ago, and he does a footballing podcast. I guess I'm not sure who his co-host is, but anyway, he was talking about how the majority of the quarterbacks in the league are scared to take a snap from under center. And that prevents wild situations on the goal line, specific formations, the pistol formation. They're
Mhm.
always used to taking these snaps in shotgun. Dude, I was watching a bunch of college games this past weekend. Goal line plays, shotgun. And I'm like, oh my God, I never noticed that before, but that's, super interesting. He
It'll be
was
like
like,
3rd and 1 and they're in shotgun with like, oh, it just drives me insane.
yeah. And he was like,
Line up with the running back behind you and run the football. What are you doing?
Yeah, like you're on the 1 yard line and then you're snapping the ball back to like the 6 yard line.
And then
yep.
handing it to a guy with no momentum running forward, like a
Right.
running back standing still. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. So you're basically giving the defense a 5 yard
Head
cushion.
start. Yeah. 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 He was
Insane.
saying it brings no cohesion to the offense. All these kids in college, it's all these playboards that they're, listen up. You don't have to look another player in the face and say, hey bro, I need you to block for me. I need this 1 yard out of this play. This is where we're running your direction. It's like they call a thing, they say a number on the wristband, everybody looks at their wristband, and then they get ready for the play on whatever snap count that they're supposed to go off of. He's like, it provides no cohesive offense play. Like these guys don't know how to handle a grown ass men in the league when they get there because they're not being taught that in college. They don't know how to command an offense. And I think we're seeing that like extremely heavily right now.
I think the one exception to that I would say is CJ Stroud.
Sure.
I think CJ Stroud he can take snaps under center. He's shown that he can run an offense even in his second year. Like I think, for CJ Stroud, the sky's the limit for him. The only problem is they've got the Chiefs in the same division. So, or not same division, but the same conference.
Yep.
But, I and I think a lot of the problems also stem from just not only the quarterback, but if you don't have a good offensive line to protect you, like you're not going to have success at all. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that's being overlooked too, is that these GMs and whatnot, they're paying so much attention to, the playmakers because that's what's important in fantasy. That's what's important in the eyes of the fans. You know, they look at, the wide receivers, the running backs, the cornerbacks on defense, the linebackers, the safeties. But at the end of the day, the game's won in the trenches. And
Absolutely.
so if you don't have a solid O line and a solid D line, then with a young quarterback, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Mhm.
I mean, I kind of feel bad because there's a lot of quarterbacks that, young quarterbacks that get put in situations where they have a poor O line, and a veteran quarterback knows how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
They've been in the league for 10, 15 years. For example, Andy Dalton, who, can deal with a poor O line because he's dealt with that before,
Right.
and he's been able to adjust. Whereas, like, if you're coming in, you're trying to learn an offense, you're trying to learn how to run an NFL offense, and at the same time, you're only having like 2 seconds to get the ball out of your hand
Yeah.
while trying to read the defense. It gives you no chance.
Have half the weapons, no time either. It just doesn't make any sense. Then you just like draft quarterback after quarterback after quarterback for like Cleveland's been doing it for I don't even know how long they've tried, but like it just doesn't make sense to never build through the trenches. And I think the like Eagles have been doing that for a while. That's why they've had like success at least with the offensive line. I mean, it helps like having a Lane Johnson or like a Kelsey and just kind of getting those all world players, but like any quarterback they stick back there can like be decent because he's gonna have enough time for protection. It doesn't matter who's back there. Like they should be okay.
And he'll
But
have a
like
decent run game. Like,
yeah,
that's something that is
Bryce
not.
Young was under pressure in like 0.1 seconds. Like and he's can't do anything.
I mean, I think part of that is also like, as a quarterback, part of your responsibility is to, like, read the line of scrimmage and kind of adjust, the line. But even with the Eagles, like, Kelsey was doing all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Now it falls on
So,
Jalen.
I think
it's,
I think too you're seeing guys like Darnold and Baker would be a little bit better. I think you see it in baseball with pitchers a little bit, but also like quarterbacks kind of get figured out, and then you got to make like an adjustment, and then like maybe you kind of get figured out again, and like still have to like make adjustments. Like it's a continuous cat and mouse game between the defenses and
Yeah.
QBs. And I think it's underrated how good the defenses are too, especially from college, because I feel like college defenses are trash compared to NFL.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, part of it is that the pocket passer quarterback, if you're going to get a pocket passer quarterback, you look at the history of pocket passing quarterbacks, they don't have great success when they first enter the league. A guy like Drew Brees, a
Big
guy like
Ben.
Peyton Manning, they struggled their first, couple years in the league. And it wasn't until year 4 or 5 that they figured it out and started having like massive success. You're seeing that with Baker Mayfield now, and Sam Darnold, and Jared Goff in Detroit. Um, like, all of those guys are on their second team because the first team gave up on them because they thought they were trash. Because, as a pocket passing quarterback, you can't rely on your legs to get out of a situation and make a play. That's where, like, a guy like, what's a good example? Like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, like, yeah, they're top quarterbacks in the league, but part of what made them able to have success immediately was their legs and their ability to run as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that kind of enhanced that. And now, as time goes on, you're starting to see, like, yeah, Josh Allen and Lamar are still, really, really good quarterbacks, but the likes of Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who are in that same class, who were thought of as busts, are now starting to like catch up to them,
Yeah.
in terms of the success as a quarterback. Not like obviously MVP success or, that sort of thing, but just in terms of like,
More
how
production.
they're playing. Yeah, production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Liam, you said something that I haven't really thought about before, and it's the ability of the league to start creating defenses against that particular player. And I think that as we progress, it's now focused on the run threat quarterback. We see a lot of like spies and a lot of defenses that leave a linebacker or cornerback, open to cover cover the quarterback in case he decides to scramble and run.
Yeah.
That is exactly why I think Joe Flacco was successful against Pittsburgh, although our secondary is trash and any decent throwing quarterback could probably do that. But, the league has adapted to these younger guys and the run heavy quarterbacking situation. And another point I kind of wanted to make along Graham's vein, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, have they been able to get over the hump? The answer is no. I think we see primarily passing quarterbacks go and win the Super Bowl. Lamar can't thread the needle on a pass like Matt Stafford could, when the Rams won. Not to say that wasn't like a quote unquote super team year, but I don't know, man. Like, he's got to prove to me that he can make those tight passes to win it all. I don't think the run game can get him there. As important and as productive as Baltimore is at the run game specifically, I don't know, man. Like,
Also,
I don't know.
Their receivers are weak.
Let me just give you the statistics for Josh Allen this Sunday against the Houston Texans when they lost. He was 9 for 30 for 131 yards and a touchdown. 9 for 30.
He had a terrible first half. I know. I was playing him in fantasy, so I have no complaints about how his week went.
Yeah, that is insane.
And Jaden Daniels had one incompletion the whole game, or one or two incompletions the whole game against
the Browns.
What was it? The Bengals?
Cleveland. It was against Cleveland. Oh, are you talking about?
No, against the Bengals last week. And then Cleveland this week, he had a decent game. He was 14 for 25, 238, a touchdown and an interception.
Well, Cleveland's pass defense is much, much better than the Bengals is as well, I think. So
yeah. But I guess you could say Jaden Daniels is another guy too that's having success, and he's a mobile quarterback.
Yep.
But he's shown that he can throw from the pocket.
Yes.
Like, yes, as a mobile quarterback, like, that can only get you so far. Like, in order to have long-term success in the NFL, you got to be able to throw the ball from the pocket. And that's kind of back to my point earlier of, like, my kind of thought is, like, running quarterbacks from year one, from rookie year maybe to year 3 or 4, have the most success. But then after that, the pure pocket passers have the most long-term success and are the ones that are most likely to make runs to the Super Bowl.
Yep. And I think what we see is these guys that are MVP caliber, your Lamar Jackson, your Josh Allen, more specifically, over a guy like Patty Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs were geniuses when they signed him to a 10-year, $500 million contract, and they could structure it however they want. Once they stop,
I think we talked about that in the last podcast too. Yeah.
Once they start losing, that's when they'll start paying him big bucks to get that, that cap money, out of the way. But until then, bro, I bet you they're deferring a bunch of that money, saving money here and there, where you got a guy like Lamar who's making what? $10 million more a year than that, $15 million more a year. And the cap, the total cap space is only like $240 million. You got to realize, that $10 million right there, that's a significant percentage. That's a fucking offensive lineman. That's a top tier offensive lineman.
And they have Derrick Henry on a big contract too.
Yep. How do you expect to have success when you're paying, the primo players big bucks?
Yeah. That's always the big thing, like winning with a rookie quarterback contract, because then you can pay everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah, but then that's the thing too, is like rookie court, I feel like that was a method that teams had tried, and it worked for the Rams when they made it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, even though they didn't win it. Worked for a couple other teams, but
Purdy.
At the end of the day, Purdy, but I don't think it's
for the Birds. They won a
that's
Super Bowl.
A huge risk, because then if the but it's a huge risk, because then if the quarterback doesn't work long term, then you're kind of screwed.
And then every 2 years, like, do we pay him? Do we move on? Like, what do you do?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you basically have 1 to 2 years where you're going all out and you're hoping that you can make a run to the Super Bowl with a young quarterback. But then if you don't, then you're kind of your hands are tied where it's like, okay, like, do we pay him? Do we not pay him? And then you see teams like the Jags who decide to give Trevor Lawrence a massive deal, or the Giants who decide to pay Daniel Jones a massive deal instead of paying Saquon Barkley. Just
oh man, dude.
We paid Wentz, we got out of it, but like, yeah, we paid him too.
Dude, I just cannot believe you guys saw the Hard Knocks with the Giants. Did both of you see that by chance?
I saw the clip of them like in the room talking
Dude,
about
I just
it. Yeah.
literally cannot believe. I don't know what is the GM's name, Joe something. I cannot believe that you think all of those things are a good idea. I know I'm an armchair coach. I am. I sit on my couch every Sunday and I religiously watch football. But shit, dude, are you kidding me? For a GM of a professional organization to make those decisions, feel publicly good about it, feel publicly good about showing the entire video process? Come on, man. I don't know. I don't know about that. It was brutal. You guys got to watch it.
A bad year to be on Hard Knocks.
Yes.
Yeah. I also think that more teams should start to, and I think more teams are starting to do this, because you see Atlanta doing it now, taking the Green Bay approach of bringing in a veteran quarterback, having him play for like 2 to 3 years until the guy is your guy that you draft is ready.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see with the Packers, I think the Packers, there were questions about it when Jordan Love first started, but since then, I think it's pretty set in stone. Jordan Love's a top 10 quarterback in the league.
He's also compensated.
Maybe borderline, like below top 10.
He's compensated. That's the only problem.
But he's
extremely well compensated for it. Isn't he like the highest paid or one of the highest paid now? I feel like his recent contract. That's my only, devil's advocate. That's my only negative. Like I understand this guy may be top tier, but you're exclusively locking yourself in for 4 or 5 years. Or you want a Russell Wilson? You want a Denver Broncos contract with Russ that now they're paying him $30 million a year and he's sitting on the fucking Steelers bench, and we're paying him $1 million. Like, I don't know. That's the what is it? The line in the sand, the invisible line. Like, when do you know not to step over that threshold? They've had the guy in the system long enough, and I think that proves your point, Graham. Like, they've had him there long enough. They know the guy. They know he's going to work. Why not pay him? I mean, the cap's going to continue to go up.
Right.
Lock in your guy long term if you think that's what you have.
But I just think overall, regardless of whether or not you pay a guy too much or not, like, at least a year to sit, I think is good for a quarterback. Like, throwing a quarterback to the Wolves year one, especially if you're on a super shitty team where it's like you don't have the team built around you. Yeah, you have no shot. Sam Darnold didn't have a shot. Baker Mayfield didn't have a fair shot, even though he led the Browns to the playoffs and won a playoff game for the first time in
like that.
Who knows, like over 20 years. So I just think that there's so little patience with quarterbacks now to where, as an organization, and I get it because it's the pressure comes from the media, it comes from the fans.
Yeah, Liam knows a little bit about that.
You need to relieve that pressure off of the quarterback in some way. And the best way to do that is to let them sit behind a veteran quarterback for a year and let them learn.
Yeah, I was going to say, Liam definitely knows about that, man. I feel like Philly fans are the most critical out of anybody.
Yeah, there's no patience. There's no patience. And you're just going to get how everyone's thinking, so it just comes out no matter what. I will say too, we came out of an era with like a lot of really, really good quarterbacks. Like you had,
that's true.
Even like the bottom tier quarterbacks for like, I guess like the bottom tier of the top tier, like Eli, and he like won 2 Super Bowls. Like Flacco won a Super Bowl. Like
or Andy
Roethlisberger, Brady, Manning,
Phillip
like Rodgers. Like you just have Phillip Rivers. You have like so many really, really like even McNabb kind of like. you had like a lot of really great quarterbacks in the league, like, and there's just not that many great quarterbacks right now. And I feel like that was actually rare how many like great quarterbacks there were.
I feel like McNabb would be like considered in that tier if it weren't for the fact that Philly fans like have shitted on him so much to
Well,
make
yeah,
him.
he never won. He didn't win anything. He needed to win a Super Bowl, and he didn't. That's how you get in the tier. You didn't win the Super Bowl. You're not in the tier.
Well, neither did Phillip Rivers. I mean,
But I put him below all those guys.
I mean, well, yeah, I think McNabb was a solid quarterback though. He was a good quarterback. Obviously, didn't win a Super Bowl.
I guess like Kurt Warner too, a little bit, but a little younger, a little mix. But
there's a lot of guys, man. There's a lot of guys. Like I don't think about that. I guess like, yeah, we see all these old heads on these podcasts now, talking about the game and how it's changed. But yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really, realize how blessed we were to watch that era of football. Dude, I mean, what do we think when we were in like middle school, high school, half the teams had a top tier not top tier quarterback, but like pretty high up there. You know what I mean? In terms of like overall quarterback play.
For like most like a playoff weekend, the matchups would be, like huge quarterback matchups for like all 4 games that are on or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and another thing too is that I feel like, a lot of those guys, whether it was just they were lying about the injuries that they had, or they were just telling the doctor, like, fuck off, I'm playing. But it just seems like a lot of the players now, it's like, they get one little injury and they're out for like, a certain period of time. And then the backup quarterback play is not as good either.
Mm-hmm.
The backup quarterbacks compared to, if you look at the Patriots, the year that Tom Brady got hurt, and then Matt Castle comes in, and they don't make it to the playoffs, which is kind of crazy, but they win 11-5 that year.
And he got paid too.
Mm-hmm. And then shit the bed in Kansas City, but that's neither here nor there.
But even times like Jeff Garcia came in and won playoff schemes for the Eagles. He won playoff schemes. Like AJ Feely was a decent backup. Like also Andrew Luck was good too.
Yeah, Andrew Luck.
He was good.
Forgot about him.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, I think that straight corresponds with the fact that players are seen as a brand nowadays. Protect the brand at all costs. That's where your money's at. All these guys have professional agents, that are managing them, their time, whispering in their ear, hey man, you should definitely sit out and get this surgery because that'll allow you to have a longer career, make more money, XYZ, right? I think it's a whole nother side of things, right? Like we've seen money really impact the game of football. And on that same freaking Pat McAfee show, Ben Roethlisberger addressed that because they were making jokes about like how much tape he had on his ankle. And he said he wore 2.5 sizes larger cleat to fit all the braces and tape that he had stabilizing his ankles because he would just be like, fuck it, I'm going out to play. I mean, broken bones, stress fractures, ligaments, whatever.
Whereas like now I feel like the doctors almost step in too much, where it's like, let a player play if he wants to play.
We're grown-ass adults, bro.
That's my standpoint of it. Unless they have like a severe concussion or a head injury where they shouldn't be playing, which I fully understand, and like a player can't really make that decision for himself. But other than that, if it's like you got a sprained ankle or, a minor knee injury or a hamstring or something where you can still play like 80%, 70%, even 50%, like a player wants to play. And I feel like that's part of it too, is the passion of the players kind of gone away because the players focused on, like you're saying, the players focused on other things.
Commercial,
they've got agents in their ear talking about all this stuff, and it's not just about playing football. Whereas, the guys who were quarterbacking 15, 20 years ago was like, I just want to play.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care that my knee is falling apart. I don't care that I have a torn ACL like Phillip Rivers. I'm playing in the AFC Championship game.
Right.
Like, I can get the surgery after the game. I can do this at the end of the season. I'm playing in this game, and you're not going to tell me no. And whether or not that's out of the quarterback's hands now, if it's in the contracts where the doctors have the say, I mean, I don't really know. But it just seems like the players don't really care as much about that. Now, there are some players, I would say, like somebody like Joe Burrow, who I think has played through injuries in the past, Baker Mayfield, those types of quarterbacks, I feel like are definitely guys that are like, fuck it, I'm playing. Like, I don't care that I'm a little bit banged up or hurt. I'm still playing. But I don't think there's as many of those guys in the NFL anymore.
Yeah.
For whatever that is.
You know what I think? Not to get too philosophical here, because this is a sports podcast. It is the sports room. But I think it's a generational shift. I mean, think about our generation with work-life balance, our career paths, applying and interviewing for jobs. Do we see any loyalty to these large corporations that are just trying to use us for our productivity? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's an entire cultural shift in terms of our generation that these guys are like, fuck it, fuck these giant corporations. Like, I don't care. I just want to get paid my money, and I don't want to get injured for the rest of my life for doing so. Like, this was an avenue for me to get to like where I am and, continue to cash out on top of that. I do think there's still a lot of players that have, genuine passion for the game, and they want to play all the way through that to say they played in the NFL as kind of like a stature or like title thing. Right. But I think for a lot of players, it's all about the money, man. And that's kind of
right. Well, I think that's part of like the sports. Sorry to interrupt you there, but that's part of like the sports kind of the youth sports system in America. And it's not just football. It's basketball, it's baseball, it's soccer. Youth sports in America is toxic as fuck. And I hated it growing up. It was like the parents got way too involved. It was like if you didn't have the money or the resources, you weren't going to have the same success or be able to get the same reach as other people. And even if you didn't have the resources, then it was the parents had to make like full sacrifices for the kids so that they would have that opportunity. And a lot of parents aren't willing to do that because then it's like, well, what if your kid doesn't make it? Then you've made all this sacrifice.
You're out
for nothing.
$250,000 for travel baseball, travel basketball, whatever it is. No, I'm totally with you. And it's a money pit. And there's dude, that's a huge industry. Oh my God. Another little quick story from Palmyra, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure actually how many people know this. For all of you listeners out there in Palmyra, I'm sure you're probably in some way connected to me or baseball, so you would know this story. But anyway, my dad and a couple other dads that we played baseball with when we were 8 or 9 years old were looking for a travel team for us to play under. Not necessarily paid coaches, just an organization that would, quote unquote, sponsor us to send us to specific tournaments, events, whatever. And the cheapest one was something like $5,000 a year or whatever. And all the dads were like, dude, that's ridiculously expensive. We don't want to pay this. Entry fees for tournaments are like $1,000 a team, if that. You know what I mean? There's 16 players on this team. It should cost us like $80 a tournament. We played 8 tournaments, right? Do the math. But anyway, they decided to start their own organization. And for God, it was like 8 or 9 years they ran that shit. And we went to Cooperstown twice. And for those of you out there that don't know, it's Cooperstown Dreams Park. They host tournaments for 10U and 12U. The 10U being a much smaller selection of teams. I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks of 80 teams. And when you get to 12U, it's 15 weeks of 80 teams. So it was much, smaller selection process back then. And we were able to get a bid. So we went and played whatever. And then we came back when we were 12. We played again. So as long as a team takes that spot every year, your travel team is guaranteed a place in this tournament, right? So that's like a legacy thing, which is super cool. And I think they still go today. My boss's son actually went this year with his travel team from Richmond. Super cool. We chatted about that. But anyway, they built up this program for eight to 10 years. We had something like 6 or 8 teams, maybe even 10 teams, baseball, only baseball, I think. Softball came later. And the dads were like, okay, all the kids are graduating, they're going to college. We really don't have any skin in the game anymore, per se. And they're like, what do we do? So we've been using this local sports facility to hold our practices for most of the time. We had a sponsorship, back and forth. We were able to use cage time cheaper, stuff like that. And they were like, okay, as a thank you for these guys doing this for us, why don't we just like gift the team to them or sell it to them for cheap? And I guess a couple of the dads were trying to talk the other ones out of it, but in the end, majority ruled, and they ended up basically gifting this team to this sports facility. They now have like 46 travel teams, baseball, softball, pro pitching staff, all this shit. And I bet you, that's worth probably upwards of, 500 grand, $1 million in terms of like asset value for a sports facility like that. And they have a facility, they can host their own tournaments. So they're bringing everybody from outside in. They have a team that can play in it, it's wild. And they range, I think, from like 8U all the way up to high school level now. And it just blows my mind how involved some of these organizations are, how expensive it is. The politics involved is absolutely ludicrous. If any of you out there have ever been involved in organized travel sports, I'm sure you have a story or two. But yeah, dude, that, I don't know, grinds my gears because they basically, I don't know. I don't want to say they took advantage, but it's a lot of circumstantial things had happened. And, we're the original team, bro. We don't get any commendation or any little plaque or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like us as little 9-year-olds starting this team, with the crappy hats or whatever uniforms. One of the parents went online and ordered from, I think it was East Bay. That was big back in the day. But yeah, dude, the travel sports programs and I think youth sports today is genuinely, I don't even know what to say. It's just like it's a madhouse. And
Yeah, I used to get what'd you just shout out again? East Bay. Yeah, I used to get a magazine with East Bay from Hoops. But yeah, it's also just only about the money. They don't really care about like developing players or anything like that. And like the coaching's not really good. So
yeah, exactly.
The whole thing's kind of a mess. We do still turn out nasty athletes for the Olympics and everything though, but it's still just a mess.
Yeah, but that's.
I also grew up in like New Jersey, and it was much more like town sports for youth level.
That's
and
awesome.
Then like moved to California, and it was like much more travel just for like everything, and everything was like money. Who's your coach? Who's your hit this? Who's your that? Like it's just crazy.
I feel like it really just depends on where you are, and for a lot of parents, like they have to send their kids away. And especially in basketball, this is a big thing. Like somebody that played basketball, a lot of kids, in order to get noticed, and you go to these. Not only are you doing travel like AAU and stuff, but you're going to like these prep schools, and that's like a huge thing in basketball, is going to a prep school and like getting a scholarship to go to a prep school. So you don't have to pay, parents don't have to pay for the prep school, but you're going there to play basketball or you're going there to play football. Like the IMG academies, Oak Hill Academy, what's the one in California? Montverde, I think.
Okay. I'm not sure.
They're like they're one of the biggest like high school basketball programs in the country.
Yeah.
But it's all like they're just recruiting the best kids from around the country and then trying to get them to come there to play for high school basketball, Whereas like back in the day, you just played at your local high school
Hope the
and,
scout came to your
you know,
practice. Yeah.
hope that you got noticed. And then if you didn't, you had to kind of work your way up. You maybe started at a
Right.
D3 school or a low Division I school, and then, you know, balled out at that school and then got your opportunity through that, you know. And it was a lot. I get it, because it was a lot harder to do that. And I feel like it's easier for, you know, players that don't have as much opportunities to get noticed, but it also kind of makes it much harder for people who, you know, might not really feel like they could make it, and just kind of giving up and realizing like, yeah, I've got
Yeah.
no shot, because look at all these other
Yep.
people. And so it doesn't like help youth sports at all, because it, like you all are saying, it makes it all about the money. And
Yep.
you know, and I think that's especially in soccer as well. And there's many people both inside and outside of like the US soccer, just in soccer in general, who have talked about the youth sports for soccer in the United States, and how it's very bad. And it because there's no development. It's all
Maybe the
about,
worst, I think.
yeah, because I think that
Yep.
goes for every sport where development has been thrown out the window, and it's not about development of the
It's
player
about how large is
anymore.
your checkbook.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep.
Yeah, I even played AAU one summer, and it was like a new team, and he signed us up for all the like whatever they ranked them as, but like Class A tournaments, you know, and it was just like that makes no sense. Like, why are you signing up this brand new team for like the highest level of basketball in all these tournaments? Like, sign up for the C level. Like, we were just getting killed every single game. It was like,
How
what's
was
the
that
point?
fun for the players at that point? Yeah.
That was terrible. It was
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
so
wanted
bad.
to bring up something quickly that I heard, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, is Mike Baker on Rogan's podcast. His son currently attends IMG Academy. He said, I may be fudging the numbers a little bit, getting, you know, off by a couple. He said like 80 of the 86 kids that graduated that year as seniors had a Division I offer to play basketball.
It's pretty sweet.
They were all basketball, or like just in sports in
Just
general?
people there for
It was
hoops.
hoops. I think they have had a larger class, but that was
Really?
well, maybe it's sports in general, because 80 would seem a pretty large class. So Graham's probably right. Something I did want to kind of transition here to before we run out of time. We have a couple more things to talk about. I just want to bring up the Alabama game this past weekend. I don't know where you guys were at when that occurred, but that was pretty awesome, man. I don't know. When's the last time we've seen a number one team go down to an unranked team?
I think it happens somewhat, but not much
It's not
recently.
Vandy.
You know, not Vandy. You know,
Yeah.
especially when they like just beat Georgia
In that thriller
last
yeah,
week.
crazy game.
Riding high. It's like a
Yeah.
classic track.
Also, I do want to say this. So their receiver, Alabama's receiver, Ryan Williams. I don't know if you saw that touchdown catch he made
He's
against
unreal.
Georgia. That's got to be one of the best like catch run I've ever seen. It was incredible the way
Yeah, that was
he
an insane
twisted.
play.
He caught the ball, literally twisted his body to stay in bounds, come back, keep running, then do a full like 360 and like spin around two Georgia defenders, basically like in slow motion,
It was a whoop.
and then run to the end zone. It was insane. And he's 17 years old. He should be in high school right now. It was. I just wanted to
see the
say
other
that
catch he
because
had?
like that play
Did you see the
was
other catch he
wild.
had where the quarterback put it a little high and he kind of hit, he goes up and he hits it and it goes behind him and he turns his whole body and like reaches out his arm and like sticks it. That shit was insane to me too, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. He might be declaring for the draft early.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But there were a couple upsets this weekend too. Like Tennessee lost. I don't think there's.
Yeah.
I don't know if the world's catching up to Georgia. I feel like they're still pretty good. I don't know if it's just their quarterback play or what, but there's not really a dominant team. Like the last probably 5-6 years, it's been like a dominant Bama or dominant Georgia team. Or like last year, Michigan was kind of like obviously the best team. I feel like a couple years ago, LSU was super good. Like I feel like it's
Yeah.
pretty even, honestly, right now.
Well, I think it's kind of hard to tell, like the first 4 weeks is because you usually don't really see it until November. And by November, it's kind of clear like who the best team is or the best two teams.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, these are going to be the teams.
Like working through conference play, and then you see.
Yeah. And then you kind of see it. And we'll see with Texas. I mean, they're, I think,
Good.
ranked third right now, with Arch. And then when Quinn Ewers comes back, he'll do pretty well. And they've got a really good roster and a really good team. But yeah, I think that you're not really going to see it until, and I think, for a team like an Alabama or Georgia, especially this year, there's just a lot of, there's so many more SEC teams, like with Texas and Oklahoma this year.
Yeah.
There's just not so many more, but I guess like it toughens the competition within the SEC. So, I mean, you might have Alabama with 2 losses or Georgia with 2 losses. But they're still going to make the playoff because the playoff is 12 teams this year. And so they're still going to have a shot to win the national championship. And then, by December, the team's going to be fully molded. Plus, I mean, you have to factor in this is Kalen DeBoer's first year. And I mean, Saban wasn't spectacular his first year at Bama.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't do like incredible his first year at Bama. It's not like Bama's coming off a national championship year. Like I think what did they had 2 losses last year too, right?
Bama.
I think. Yeah.
1 or 2. They beat Georgia in the play or in the SEC championship game, and then they went into the playoff. So probably had 1 loss.
Or no, they had 1 loss, and then they got in over Florida State. That's right. They had 1 loss, but they still got in over Florida State, who had an undefeated season.
Yeah.
And then talk about Florida State.
That's a whole different story.
I love how last year they were complaining because they wanted to join the SEC. They were complaining because the ACC has a TV rights deal till 2036, I think, and Florida State, they're not able to get out of the deal. I think they have to pay, I don't know how much it is, but it's a lot of money if they wanted to get out of that deal to join the SEC. And there's other teams that are thinking about it too, but I just think it's so funny that Florida State was complaining about that, and now they're literally 1-4, and they're
well, they lost their quarterback.
Awful. Well, yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't think DJ Uiagalelei or
He stinks.
His name, stinks. I mean, you wouldn't think he's that bad. Like, to turn a team who went 12-0 in the regular season last year to be a 1-4 team, like that's such a switch. I don't think it's just the quarterback, but I also think that's what the transfer portal can do to teams. You're going to see teams that are going to go like 12-0, and then the next year they're going to be like 4-8 because there's so much turnover.
Yeah.
With players now, where that can happen, whether it's like players leaving for the draft, and then you've got other players, like especially if you've got a freshman or sophomore who might have had a really good year and was important piece of the team, and all the seniors of the team leave, and the team was really, really good. The seniors leave, a couple guys who are juniors decide to head to the draft, and then the team is kind of, a lot of those younger guys are like, okay, well, the team's not going to be as good next year. Maybe I should go somewhere else where I can compete for a national championship,
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like a Miami quarterback came word.
Yeah. They've gotten lucky the past 2 weeks, though. My
Yeah, I was
goodness.
pulling for Cal, too.
Don't even get me started.
They're
My
they're
sister
hanging
went to
on to the
Cal.
skin of their teeth. I mean, don't even get us
Oh
started
my
with
God, that game.
that touchdown call that they made. First of all, okay,
I was asleep.
if it was an incomplete pass, if they ruled it an incomplete pass on the field, I would have completely understood that, and like they would have confirmed. I don't know if you saw the game, Liam, or if you know what happened. So basically, there was a Hail Mary on the last play of the game. Virginia
We should have
Tech
won handily before that.
we should have won that
It shouldn't
game before
ever got to
so
that.
it shouldn't have ever gotten to that point. But the last play of the game, there was a Hail Mary. I think drones threw it from like 30-yard line to the end zone.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Seattle Green Bay game a while ago. But so the guy
just, like,
kind of
laying
comes
on him,
down
right?
with it. Yeah, the guy's like laying on him, and he catches the ball, and then you see like 3 seconds later the ball pops out. A Miami player comes running with it. The Miami players start to celebrate, and then they ruled a touchdown
We're
on the
freaking
field.
out because you need indisputable evidence to overturn a call that's made on the field.
Right. And because they called it a touchdown on the field, there was no indisputable evidence that, because you couldn't see the football. Even in the slow-mos, there was no way that you could see the football to make a determination of whether or not the guy had control or not. Regardless of, even if a guy out of bounds was touching the ball, if the guy has possession of the ball, that's still a catch. It would be if he was like fumbling with the ball and the guy had touched it, then it would be out. But there was no way to tell that. So it was just a complete miss call, I guess you could say, on both. Because I think, you could have ruled it an incomplete pass. And I think if they ruled it an incomplete pass on the field, I would have been okay with that, because then there's not enough video evidence to overturn that call of it actually being a catch. So that's understandable. Also, another thing to note, so the head ref of that game, the Miami Virginia Tech game, he was the same head ref of the Duke Miami game that happened. I remember the exact date because it was Halloween, October
With the Hail
31st,
Marys?
2015.
The
No, it wasn't.
laterals?
It was the laterals.
Yeah, with like
It
a
was the laterals.
million flags, right?
I was at that game. It was they missed the so the refs after the game ended up getting suspended for that game because they missed. Not only was the guy's knee was down, and they literally had like pictures people were posting on like Twitter and shit after the game showing like still pictures of the guy with his knee down with the ball still in his hand. But there were like at least two or three block in the back flags that got missed, and one of them got picked up actually because they determined it wasn't actually a block in the back. When you can see it like in the video, because I obviously watched the video afterwards, it was clear as day. Guy gets blocked in the back at the 25-yard line. Like you can't miss that.
Yeah, I remember
And then
that.
yeah, so it was just I mean, you still shouldn't allow a lateral touchdown at the end of the game, and I get that, and it's an incredible play, but
if he's down, he's
still.
down, bro. That's it. Sorry to bust your
He's
Cinderella
down.
story.
Like,
Yeah,
the
like
rules are the
the
rules.
play's over. Exactly.
The rules are the rules. And so if you're stretching the rules just for certain situations, I guarantee you, not guarantee, but I would not be surprised if the head ref of that Miami Virginia Tech game got a call from the ACC and was like, I don't care whether or not you don't have indisputable evidence to overturn this. You have to make this a touchdown so Miami can win, so we can get the best chance of making the playoff and making the top ACC team get a
that
boost.
10-minute review was done by the ACC headquarter referee staff that was sent in to the headquarters. I don't know where it is. And they were the ones who reviewed it and made the final call. That's what they told them. Unbelievable. All right, can we quickly get to the things that led to that point, because we should have never lost that game. Poor clock management. Probably let the clock run out a few times. He squib kicked it. The fake field goal was ridiculous. We gave that game away, man.
We did give that game away. Also, I will say this: what was it? 4th and 3, where the guy caught the ball like while he was sitting down. That was pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie,
they had a couple catches that were crazy.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah,
that was sick.
Yeah, the football gods kind of wanted them to turn it around in the second half. They had a few catches that I was like, dude, that happens once in that player's season. Once in a season type catches, not once in a lifetime.
No, that's like once in a lifetime catch. He's never going to catch a ball like that ever again, where he's like falling down, literally butt on the ground, and the ball just comes to him and he catches it. Like,
that's tough.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it was on 4th and 3, and if they hadn't gotten that, the game pretty much would have been over.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Yeah, so we're living in misery. How are you doing over there with the Mountaineers, Liam?
They're just like frustrating. They blew out Oklahoma State this weekend. They ran for like almost 400 yards. I feel like we always struggled with Oklahoma State. And then the week before, they had a comeback win against Kansas. They scored with like 30 seconds left, but the game had a huge lightning delay. They blew a 10-point lead with like 4 minutes left against Pitt, which was just brutal.
Yeah, because they're 6-0.
It was just classic. Like, they just ran the ball 3 times straight just so they would use their timeouts. Like, they went right down the field and scored a touchdown to make it a 3-point game, in 3 plays. And then they just go like 3 and out again. All your momentum's gone. Pitt marches right down the field and scores. Game over. Like, it was just like, you knew it was coming. You could just see them that they just didn't like know how to close it out. But they've started Big 12 play good, so they have a good conference record.
Hey man, Zach Frazier lighting it up in Pittsburgh. I know we actually I was editing that podcast when we were talking about it.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. What are they? 5-0 for the first time since like 1990 or something.
Pittsburgh, we're 3-2, bro.
No. Pittsburgh Panthers.
Yeah, they are 5-0. Yeah, I knew Zach Frazier was going to be good. I wanted the Eagles to draft him.
Yeah, we were talking about that, dude. And the fact that he's a rookie taking that role. I mean, our offensive line's pretty depleted. We've had a number of injuries. Broderick Jones hasn't been playing up to snuff, where we think he should be. So I appreciate that. Thank you, West Virginia, for producing that player. He's been lighting it up, dude. But yeah, as we kind of, get towards the end of the episode here, got to talk about something in October that happens every October and probably makes it one of the best sports seasons of the year, or sports months of the year. We've got playoff baseball, the start of NHL hockey. We're right in the thick of college football and NFL, which brings us to that, just that playoff baseball. Let's go over a couple of the other games. Then Liam, you can kind of talk about your fills. What do you think the outlook's going to be? 2-1, tough play going back into the Mets Stadium. Is that tomorrow?
Yeah, so we play tomorrow at 5 again. I mean, every series has been good so far. I think I saw something, I can't remember. I was just like skimming through like my feed, and it was like first time ever or in a while that all 5 or all 4 series have been tied 1-1 at the same time, which is pretty cool that they're all that competitive. I think coming off the wild card win is honestly huge for momentum. The Phillies rode it the last 2 years. I think the Mets are doing it right now. Definitely being hot's important. They also had one of the better records in baseball the second half of the year. But it just comes down to execution and hitting. I think at the end of the day, and are you hitting the other team's mistakes? And the Phillies just don't hit. They chase everything. They get themselves out. Obviously, it's kind of tough splitting at home and then going to New York for 2 games, because I think if you split those 2 first road games, you feel better about yourself than the home team. So I think that gave them a lot of momentum. But we got Ranger Suarez is pitching tomorrow. he had a great first half of the season. Actually, he was like the Cy
Mhm.
Young favorite. And then I think he kind of just got gassed. He got banged up a little bit, and then coming back off the IL, he just never found his groove. But the last 2 years they've been in the playoffs, Ranger has just been an absolute beast. He's so good. He's just so cool. He's got the lowest playoff ERA of all time, or something like
Really?
that. In a certain, I don't always love those stats just because the innings and important stuff over time I feel isn't accurate. But he's got a 1.74 playoff ERA, so he's been great the last couple of years in the playoffs. So, but they need to hit. They're not hitting. So if you're not hitting, you're not going to win. They did it last year, which is why it's so
And a
frustrating.
comment that I'd like to add that I thought was interesting was the whole Alec Boehm thing where they played Sosa over him at third base. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Something must have happened or something was going on because I don't understand them swapping that up.
Yeah, he's just been struggling. He got hurt too, and then came back. He was 1 for his last 27 or something like that. So I think they just decided to flip it. I can't really say I've agreed with a lot of Topper's decisions this series. I think he's been pretty brutal with the bullpen, and just even today, then he put Baum back in, and then benched Stott and Marsh to go lefty righty matchup. But I don't know, the previous game you were benching someone just because he wasn't playing well and you wanted to spark the team, but now you're benching someone the next game because you need to go lefty righty. I just like playing with the same lineup and keeping that consistency. Stott had a big triple 2 days ago to put him up 2 runs in the 8th inning, and you bench him the next game, stuff like that. Just
Yeah, I
doesn't make any
totally
sense to
agree.
me.
I think baseball is a huge game of momentum, and it's all about strategy. How are you going to outplay the other team? I think, especially in the playoffs, most of those teams have players with similar statistics. They've all got 3 guys hitting over 310, and the rest of the guys are hitting 275. You know what I mean? They're studded with great lineups, and I think it's about outmaneuvering the other team. I really do. But it's always the case where you get a big ace, right? And he has a beautiful game, and that can really topple a series because that's one game you can count on, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. The hitters have been getting really good. Judge had an immaculate season, but he fucking sucks in the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
He's the most
Playoffs,
strikeouts out of any active player, I think, in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think playoff baseball is a different beast, but also series can swing super quickly. And baseball too can just swing on one switch so fast on one 3-run homer or anything like that. I can just flip a whole series. But I will say I don't know if you watched Game 2 of that Phillies Mets series, but it was absolute that was an awesome baseball game. Just absolute
that was
chaos.
electric. I mean, dude.
Oh, I don't even know how I got through it. I felt like I was gonna die the whole game. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, that was so anxiety ridden. I mean, it was back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
But hey, man, that's what you need in a playoff baseball team, and that those guys that can just deliver in the heat of the moment. And those are the guys that are going to win a World Series.
Yeah.
Did either of you watch the Dodgers Padres game 2?
I followed that a little bit.
For whatever reason, we were
that?
watching the beginning, and their left fielder made one of the best catches I've seen this year. He robbed a home run, basically from a fan.
I think I saw that.
And then he played it off, dude. He played it off. So Mookie Betts was rounding the bases, and he's just back there smiling. He had the ball and he threw it in.
Yeah. Quick story on that. I was doing dishes, and I know Tatis already homered in the first, and I turned around and I saw Mookie rounding the bases, and then I was like, "Oh, Mookie, he's so good," and then kept doing the dishes, and then I turned the TV off, and 20 minutes later I checked the score, and I was like, "Wait, what? That wasn't a home run? What did I miss?" And had to go look it up and saw that he robbed it.
Crazy. So much drama in that game though. The Manny Machado throwing a ball at the Dodgers dugout, the players throwing shit at what was it, Tatis in the outfield. That shit was crazy, man. And it's going on right now. 6-5.
They're I think 6-5 or something right now. It's just 6-1. Someone just hit a grand slam on LA. But so someone threw a ball at Profar.
Yeah.
And then people were throwing beer cups at Tatis, I think. Machado kind of fired a ball at the dugout. Not that hard, but harder than people usually.
Yeah, he made a comment. He's like, yeah, I just threw it at him to make him shut up. I didn't throw it hard enough to do something, but he's like, I threw it just soft enough to make sure they knew that they were soft. And that's what he said to the media. And I was like, that's kind of fucking hilarious.
At least he said it because he definitely did it. So
yeah, I mean, That's the thing, though. At least if you're honest about it, it's like
It's playoff
it's the heat of
baseball.
the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, people get frustrated.
It's not like you're trying to endanger somebody. You're just like trying to get their attention.
Yep. Oh my god, dude. I love it. I love playoff baseball. The fan intensity,
Mm-hmm.
the significance. Yeah, I was gonna say
Every
significance.
pitch.
Yeah.
Every pitch is just so
Every
important,
pitch
dude.
is
Like
just
Philly, dude. Citizens
and
Bank Park, though, man. Like every playoff baseball game I watch.
It's
Oh,
the place is
fans! I love
nuts.
the fan energy. It's just every pitch. Like
Yeah.
freaking out, dude. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's one thing I will say about Philly fans. They are passionate. I do like that.
Yeah. Sometimes
They
a little
are.
too passionate, but well, there's a fine line between like passion and like almost insanity, and I feel like Philly
Nah, dude,
perfectly like
Philly's all the way up here.
has that. No, I feel like they perfectly like match that line where it's like, yes,
It's
they
like
are kind of insane, but it's also like meshed with passion.
yeah.
You
There's
know?
a lot of stuff on Philly's Twitter where it's like those like green and red dials, and it's just there's just two moods. It's like unbelievably cocky and like completely
Yeah.
distraught, and it's just only one or the other. Like you're up, you win, you're like let's go, and then they lose, and it's like fire everyone, get them all out of here. Everybody sucks.
Yeah. And that's like every sport. It's like 76ers,
Oh, they're
Eagles,
miserable.
Phillies.
Yeah, real quick, kind of before we get going here, can we talk about okay, so a little preface. I've decided to kind of give up watching the NBA, but I've still been following a little bit the people that, I'm surrounded by are NBA fans, yada yada yada, whatever. Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks. Do we think the Knicks will be good? Are we going to give Ben Jasko a little bit of hope here in this daunting seasons? Although the Giants did win this week.
Yeah. I mean, Ben Jasko, I love him, but he doesn't. I don't think he likes to feel hopeful about his teams if there's not any hope. So I have to say, unfortunately, I don't think that
I don't think they're that good. I don't even care that they beat us
they're
in the
going to be. I
playoffs
don't
last
think
year.
Cat's
We're
going to
not that
make
good,
any
so
difference. Cat is not going to make any
I think they got
difference
worse.
into stopping the Boston Celtics. Like the Celtics have the superior roster. Even with Mikal Bridges, they brought in Cat. I don't think Cat's that much of an upgrade from Julius Randle. Maybe he's staying healthier, so that's he'll actually be on the court to play.
He'll need to pick up his intensity too. I was talking to my
Yeah,
brother. He made a point that the like Knicks whole thing is like toughness and grit, and I feel like Cat just that's not really who he is as a player. So it'll be interesting if he can adjust. But
yeah. I also think that for the Timberwolves, I think that was a good trade for the Timberwolves.
I feel like it was money
Because they
dump for
didn't.
them.
Well, they didn't really need Cat. They already have Nas Reed coming off the bench, and like there were a lot of times in the playoffs last year. I mean, I didn't fully watch, but I mean they beat the Nuggets. Like they're
Ant is super good. He's so
yeah,
good.
and they've got the roster. I think Julius Randle's a quality piece to put to the team. Maybe they just use him as a trade piece and try and grab somebody else. But I think for the Timberwolves, it was a good trade. I don't think, I think that was a statement that they made where it was like, we're building this team around Ant and, Cat's kind of a piece that they were looking to kind of get rid of at his highest value, which I think that they did. And so personally, I think the Timberwolves got the better end of that trade. Julius Randle's a solid player,
He's good.
but
That's definitely better than him, though. I think. But it's a fun trade, regardless, too.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting trade for sure. I don't think it's going to make any difference for the Knicks' playoff hopes. I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they might even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals again, but I don't think they're beating Boston.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear favorite in the East again, I think, too.
Yeah.
So Boston's winning the NBA championship again, I guess.
Sixers.
Yeah, Bronny's gonna come in and light the league up.
Yeah.
Dude, that's can we
Acknowledge that
just
for a second. That's
look,
crazy.
I understand that ESPN is trying to make their money, but can they stop? Can they stop with the Bronny shit? Like, he was the 55th pick in the draft. He's not really gonna make that much of a difference. He's not gonna play that much.
He's
Like,
not gonna put up stats.
I understand it's a great story, but stop showing me fucking clips of Bronny James scoring a layup.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to see that shit.
Right.
Like, there's so many other players that score layups, and we don't see highlights of them. Like, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, and
that's
he's
just
got
me.
like 3
But
points.
I'm not trying to be a hater of Bronny, but I don't think even Bronny wants this attention.
No, I actually think he could be decent in like 4 years, but I just think he needs some time. But it's ridiculous. Yeah, he's like 1 of 3 with like 4 points, and then you're getting like updates. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just kind of my 2 cents on that. I just think it's, more of this kind of LeBron James love. The guy who said, "Ain't no party like a Diddy party."
Oh man, now we're getting to Diddy. Maybe that means it's time to
No,
wrap it
we
up.
don't have to get to Diddy.
Yeah,
Saved it.
that's right. Yeah, we'll save that for one of those 3-hour podcasts where we sit in a room together and really hash things out. One of those serious ones. But anyways, I think we'll wrap it up here since it's been almost an hour and a half. Appreciate your guys' time as always. That one felt extremely quick, although it was quite long by the Slanted Attic Experience standards. I would like to kind of get into longer podcasts in the future. It's kind of hard to set a time for 3 people to do that, though. So,
Yeah.
So.
Especially like a weeknight, it's kind of hard to do 3 hours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
and like the Phillies and shit pops up that you didn't expect
right,
2 months ago.
Yeah. We set the date,
Yeah.
for the podcast. But yeah, man, once we're famous and big time, then I'll fly you guys out here to the podcast studio, and then we can take an entire day because it'll be like paid vacation, right? So yeah, here's to that in the future. But I want to thank you guys again. Hope everybody listening genuinely enjoyed that episode. We kind of got started on a little bit of a somber note, but lifted that up, I believe, throughout the rest of the episode. So for those of you out there that did make it this long, you can find us on all of our social media accounts at the Slanted Attic Experience or at Slanted Attic on a lot of the X, Instagram type social guys. Consumer podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, we're everywhere. But appreciate all the listeners out there. Last podcast did pretty well, so here's to a new future. We're balling out in the Spotify space. Maybe we'll make more than a penny. We'll see. But all those proceeds will be going towards our software development, so we can produce video episodes for you listeners in the future. We really appreciate you out there.
Yeah, our high quality software development team that we've got working behind the scenes.
His name may or may not be Tyler, running off of his own budget from his own work money. But hey, we're here, we're out here, and appreciate all you guys listening. And thanks to you two guys for showing up again. Always a great conversation.
Peace.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler.
All right. See you guys later.
See you.